Welcome to the God-Centered Recovery Podcast, brought to you by Narrowgate Ministries. This podcast is dedicated to giving you a God-centered approach to recovery and to life. Follow along. Let's get started. Everybody, welcome back to the God-Centered Recovery Podcast. I'm excited to be back at you again. So I got a special guest. We connected on Facebook, and his name is Arfan Husain. Welcome.
Hey, Tim. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, you're welcome, brother. I appreciate you for taking your time.
Absolutely no problem.
Hey, so I like to start this out as like what's going on in your life as far as your business, your marriage, and just start this out on a real positive note. Like, where are you at, brother?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually entering my 10th year in marriage. So we're married, going 10 years now. We have 3 kids. So
Uh-huh.
things are going, they're going amazing. My wife and I really started into diving into online business, and that was about 3 years ago. And
Uh-huh.
last year I was able to retire from my corporate job. So it's been an
Ooh,
amazing past year to be able to spend
nice.
more time spend more time with my children, my wife, and just kind of
Yeah.
not have that stress of dealing with the corporate world. I love my job, but I love this a lot more.
Yeah, that's amazing. We might be two peas in a pod because about 2 years ago I left the nonprofit world. I was
Uh-huh.
a counselor for youth, and I had 12 employees and 12 boys that I manage in a treatment center environment. But for the last couple of years, I've been, doing this and just expanding and growing together with my wife. And so we both work from home. And so I'm at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey here, but I'm glad that I took this path, even though it's scary.
Oh yeah, it's very scary making
Right.
that jump, right? We quite heard that
Right.
that Steve Harvey talk about making a jump, and it was scary, but one thing is God's faithful, and when He
Yeah.
calls us for something, He just makes it like He gives us the wings. It just kind of starts happening, and everything starts aligning. So it's definitely an amazing journey to be on.
Right. Well, one thing like pros and cons for me is like, so you can work harder and kind of dictate your own salary and create like exponential income
Mhm.
on one hand, and then on the other hand, when things go down and things get tough, um, that's when it gets scary. And so
Right. Yeah.
this whole process for us has been a real stretch of faith and a trusting scenario. I jumped on Indeed.com twice during my entrepreneurial journey looking for jobs. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And
Oh
so
yeah,
it's just like
I get notifications. That's insane.
so I mean the faith and the stretching, that's so real, brother. It's so
hmm
real. Um
Absolutely. I could attest. I mean, my prayer life probably increased tenfold since becoming a full time entrepreneur.
I think our walk with God and the entrepreneur journey, it's not for the weak of heart. Um, yeah.
It's not. Absolutely not.
So what it is that you do in business?
So my wife and I are both online coaches. We do business coaching together, with marketing, and I also do Facebook ads management.
Oh,
So in
that's
combination
awesome.
together, yeah, both of us, what we do is we help entrepreneurs really basically implement and create a strong brand and marketing strategy, so they can increase their clients, increase their income, and
Yeah,
just be able to again live life on their terms.
man, that's awesome. I know me personally, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs out there. Our biggest problem is generating leads.
hmm
Um, and it's been one of my biggest problems. Once I capture the lead and they're into my systems, the systems are good, the product is good, service is good. But it's catching those leads. And so Facebook, most people feel this pain, entrepreneurs, Facebook ads, and they just sigh and go, because we don't know what we're doing, right? And we
yeah.
tried and failed.
Yeah, it's not
Hard
like there's
stuff.
an operating manual. Like if you get a new blender, it's pretty cut and dry. You plug it in, push power, and boom, you got a smoothie.
Yeah.
Facebook ads like, hey, I'm throwing money out there, and I don't really know what I'm doing. How's this really gonna? And prior in our previous business, probably about 5 years ago is when I started working with Facebook ads. Just taking some courses, talking to people, just asking questions. Anytime I'm in trouble, I'm like, or I have a question, I'm asking somebody. I'm like, hey, how do we do this? Researching, and that 5 year journey leading up to now, able to navigate that beast of a system and
Yeah.
really to basically help to like, create these campaigns that actually bring in like really awesome results to help, again, bring in leads, sales, and just actually live up to his purpose without wasting money in paid ads, not knowing what we're doing.
Right. I feel the pain. So we're definitely going to stay in contact there.
Like, absolutely.
My biggest thing, and I have it on my whiteboard because I have the couple areas of my life that I'm not really happy with, and one is my fitness. I dialed in my nutrition and my eating habits like are on point, and then you know, the cardio and the not working out. So that was one of them. But then the other one is lead gen. These are two very frustrating things in my life. So
Hmm.
and there's a lot of people out there like that. So where can
Yeah.
people contact you if they're feeling those same pains that I am?
Yeah, you can email me directly at arfanhussein.com or visit my website. As a matter of fact, that I have a bit.ly link where they can just be able to reach out to me. And it's bit.ly, so bit.ly / create effective ads. And that's just the way to just basically get in contact with me. You can just
Awesome.
message me directly on Facebook as well.
Awesome, brother. So, hey, I want to jump in. I wanted to give this overall picture of your life and what's going on. You're a successful entrepreneur. You're in partnership with your wife. You have this vision, and you're building these great things. But it wasn't always the case, right?
Absolutely not. I mean,
Right. So,
definitely did not start that way.
take us back there, brother.
Yeah. So this, a lot happened in my early childhood. My dad was murdered when I was 2 years old. And as much as I'm kind of extroverted, so I was like one of those happy kids that kind of just brushed it off. It didn't really take an impact on me as far as everything that we went through, as far as like that situation, that trauma happening. And then from there, moving from our country, I was born and raised in Guyana, South America, and we moved entire family with nothing, no money, no nothing to New York. And from there, I barely saw my mom. So I was really raised by my sister and things like that. And then, you know, I always like sought after things like entertainment, things to like block off, what's really happening. So playing a
Yeah.
lot of video games. And what really took a turn was when I was a teenager. Yeah, I started having friends. We hung out, and then started getting introduced to drugs. So I started drinking at 14. That was one, which was kind of like that gateway into it.
Right.
And then close to 16, 17, I started smoking marijuana. I mean, we call it weed, slang term. Yeah, it's how it goes. And that was just kind of from there, just started going down. It was a lot of smoking, drinking, and it started, progressive. They always say that marijuana is a gateway drug, and I see why they say that. At the time, it was cool. We were just hanging out, we're just chilling, having a good time. But I started leading into, okay, well, if you smoke this joint and then you also take this pill, it's gonna make you feel better.
Yeah.
And it started this downward spiral into like, more drinking, more smoking, taking pills, doing cocaine, and just living this horrible life of just constantly seeking the next high, seeking the next high.
Right.
Um, and I remember there were times where I'd wake up the next day and I'd try to see, okay, what happened the previous day, because
Yeah.
it was a total blanks. Like, where's my wallet? Where's my phone? Who did I text? Who did I call? Did I screw something up? Like, what really happened? Um, and it was that started happening from the age that was from like 16, 17, all the way up into my early 20s.
Yeah.
And there was one time I woke up and literally had a scar on my face, and my entire arm right here was bloody, and I couldn't find my car. And it was like, well, what's really happening right now?
Wow.
And that's where I kind of started waking up.
Yeah.
But
Do you think so I remember, I experienced a lot of childhood trauma and I was taken away from my parents 10.
mhm,
And of course things didn't go well into my teenage years because I didn't know how to cope. Like I didn't have the skills, I didn't have knowledge, I didn't have the mentors. Um, so I went downhill fast. Um, Is that kind of the similar case of not, not really having a male mentor, not really um, knowing how to cope or to deal with this, this trauma that you're experiencing, and just kind of trying to cover it the best that you can? Is that kind of
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because really what it comes down to is a lot of times, if I was to look back and if I did have, let's say, a role model or a mentor, someone that could really hold my hand and say, no, no, son, you shouldn't be doing these things. Like, drinking is not, not the way. And again, my father was killed, and was partly because he was an alcoholic. So I still
right?
had those things, like, in the back
Wow,
of my mind, like, what am I destined to become that too as well? Just
right,
those thoughts. But yeah, there wasn't really any kind of figure that really took me under their wing until, later on. I'll obviously get to that point when things turned around. But um, I didn't have that until about when I was about 19. And it just kind of happened where I joined an MLM because this guy just kept coming to me, and I was like, you know what, I'll listen to what you have to say. And that was kind of the gateway into, like, mentorship, because I didn't really know what
yeah,
mentorship was. And
right.
that they had their entire sales process. And
There's a
um
mentorship, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I'm not part of that anymore, but at that time, that was there for a reason and a season. And
right,
it really led me to understand what mentorship was. I was now surrounded by all these guys that were, they had stories of where they overcame things. And they were now, obviously, seeking entrepreneurship, seeking to better their lives, and not have to, continually working a job or things like that. But if I had that when I was a early teen or even growing up, I'm pretty confident that, when it comes time to, like, make those decisions, like, am I gonna go hang out with people that who are gonna basically try to mess themselves up till they black out,
right,
just to kind of, we were all going through stuff. My friends, I was able to relate with them because they all had issues. They didn't really have parent figures around them. They were kind of doing life on their own.
yeah,
They had family that would help them out, but it wasn't like, there's a difference when you have a mom and you have a father that can really, hold you close and really help to guide you
right,
in that creative,
yeah,
well, not creative, but that wonderful way.
yeah. My father was in prison most of my life, and during my teenage years, I lived with him for like a year, and then he went to prison. I really didn't have anything else to do but just run away. Like,
Hmm.
me and his wife didn't get along and stuff, but about 16, 17 years old, I found a male mentor. He was actually an ex-cop, which, we grew up to kind of hate cops, but surprisingly, God sends you somebody in the form of what you hate. But
Yeah.
he took me into his home for 3 years and taught me what it was to be a man, and to raise a family and to have nice things, and just an overall holistic lifestyle that I was just like, there's something different. And that just catapulted me into, a different life. But a lot of people just, they don't discover that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and some of them get, later. And I always believe that there's a timing and a reason for different things. Um, because if someone was to come to me when I was probably 14, 15, I
Mm.
may not have been receptive to it, or I
Yeah,
brushed it off. So
right.
when I was able to get that mentor at 19 years old, and that ultimately led me, because again, I wasn't a born Christian. I'm born again Christian, but I wasn't
Uh-huh.
born Christian.
Right.
And through that process, through those mentorship, I was actually able to, I was at a conference, and everyone at the conference, they were like, hey, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is wonderful, but the real stuff happens on Sunday. They were just hyping up Sunday so much.
Uh-huh.
And at this time, prior to this, I never stepped foot in the church. So I don't know what anything was.
What kind of
Walking
conference was
Sunday,
it?
it was a business conference. It was part
Okay.
of the MLM, and it was just,
Oh, nice.
all, yeah. The Thursday, Friday, Saturday was training, and then Sunday was kind of like the wrap up of everything. But at the beginning of it, it was in there. They were playing some, now I know better, so it was, obviously, Christian music I was playing, and the main speaker was basically giving his story. And I just kept feeling that tug, and then he called people down to receive Christ in their life. And I was, at this point, I was in tears. I was like, man, he's speaking to me, he's speaking to my
Right.
entire life, what's going on right now. And it was like everything, all the bricks that was put up just kept falling down, and everything was being shown. And I stepped down and I gave my life. And um, unfortunately, addiction didn't end there.
Right. Yeah.
We
So
I
a
still
lot of
went
times
back
it's a
home.
process, right?
It is, yeah, because that
Yeah.
was in Kentucky and I'm in Florida, so that was all over. I got this newfound, like, faith and this new enthusiasm, this new energy and drive, but as soon as I got home, at this point, I started, like, selling, drugs as a way to make earning, and I still had bills to pay, so I kinda went right back into the whole thing,
Right.
and, God has a way of showing up, and he was like, no, he doesn't intend to hurt anybody, right? But I got in a car accident, and that car accident, I was unharmed, not a scratch on me. My car was total. I shouldn't have been unharmed, but my entire front end was like an accordion. But I walked away perfectly fine, and that caused me to have to move from where I was because I needed to kind of just be able to get back on my feet. And if I had a
Right.
vehicle, I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't do all this stuff. I couldn't even sell my drugs because I couldn't drive around. So end up leaving there and just completely getting clean, and end up moving to a whole different city. And now like I'm totally detoxed and I'm there now. It's like, okay, well, it's like I kept feeling that tug at me again too as well. And I kept seeking. So I was still, a few times a week I'd go and get like a six pack and just kind of be by myself in my room and again still try and mask these pains, mask these
Yeah.
troubles,
Mhm.
and drinking like a day drinker for no reason. Like why am I
Right.
drinking if I'm not at a party, I'm not hanging out by myself in my room? It's an addiction to do that.
Yeah.
Still seeking like who could I find to get some drugs from?
That's one
And
of the greatest deceptions that I know I've experienced in my life, and a lot of men do. It's like we get changed from like mine was meth and opiates and stuff like that, pills. And we come out of this extreme thing, and then we think it's okay to drink, right? And so it starts out
Mhm.
casual on the weekend or something, then it kind of builds up, and then you find yourself almost back in the same pit that you came out of,
Yes.
and that was me. Like, well, alcohol's not a sin. Blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Yeah.
these stupid debates that don't even matter. But I didn't ask myself, is this actually benefiting me? Does this increase my life? Does it make it better? Does it give me greater intimacy with my wife? Does it create a better business? No. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I was sitting there. I was probably about 250 pounds,
Uh-huh.
just in horrible shape. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror and things like that. There's all these different things that happen as a result of it. But again, it's still masking. But um, and something happened, and that's around a time where I started like, okay, let me stop it. I met a friend. He was into working out. Started going to the gym together, and he was a Christian. I started noticing every Sunday he'd bring his Bible to work, and I was like, he's like, I gotta keep God first. I gotta keep God first. And I was like, all right. And I remembered what happened in Kentucky, and I was like, you know what? Let me start praying. Let me, pull out my Bible. Let me read the New Testament. Let me see what this is really about. But again, I didn't have a Bible. I had to like download the app on my, I think I was probably one of the very first, thousands of people who downloaded the U version Bible app that's, used by billions now,
Yeah.
back in iPhone 1 days. So I started reading and then I met my wife and the very first thing she invited me to before we even talked about a relationship or anything like that, she invited me to a Bible study. And in that atmosphere was kind of like I didn't say it out loud, but internally I was like I was recommitting my life, to Christ, to follow Christ, and to be able to like go on that straight and narrow. And from that, and at that point, like I stopped. I never looked back as far as like I need to have like a drink after work and um, or during the daytime, my days off, starting 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, getting not just a six pack, I'm talking like 12-pack bottles, things like that. It's just more hardcore. So it wasn't, it was like a one-step program to give your life to Christ and continue following Him. And it was amazing, like that recovery that I went through
Uh-huh.
from that point, from being a young kid, just trying to mask these problems, try and do it by drug, alcohol, and then realizing that really the only addiction I need to have is one to be in love with Jesus.
Right.
It's kind of where
Yeah.
kind of the foundation we have in our business now. Like God's part of our business. Um, we pray with our clients, things that are important to us, and we set that foundation now.
That's awesome, brother. That's so awesome. I think, as men, the two of the biggest things in result to the fall is this fear-based nature that we have, and it causes us to run and hide. And then the second is then we lie about it. You know what I mean? And we don't
Yeah.
tell the truth, and uh we don't share what's going on in our lives, and we just
Hmm.
stuff it, and we're running and we're hiding and we're scared, and we just keep stuffing. And thank goodness that God brings us to the light, and brings that revelation and that change, man. it's,
Yeah,
it's
amen to
amazing.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
And yeah, I mean, that's like you're able to like articulate a lot of what I was feeling because it was stuffing it. Like I said, there was bricks that was poured up just to kind of block these things. Like I don't want to, have to deal with the emotion of, of everything that's going on to actually be a certain kid. And there's other things that happened in my childhood too as well, like molestation and just, some other stuff that just really just needed to be in a closet. And at least I felt that way. It needed to be in a
uh-huh.
closet to never be told to anybody. Because
Right.
again, as a man, you know, that's not something that I wanted to share with any other
Hmm.
people, anyone to know like my deepest, darkest
Right.
secrets of, what's happened to me and what's going on, what's in my mind right now. So I was masking like, hey, let's be happy, let's have fun, let's get smashed and and just black out or not remember anything has happened,
Right.
stuff it
Yeah.
all up.
Hey, I have a ultimate question that a lot of people want to know, but what's your why? What keeps you sober? What keeps you on the path?
It's my children, my wife, my entire family right now because I know what, like, I kind of mentioned it, but the hurt, the trauma like I felt as a kid growing up without having a father, without having that mentorship, that guidance, the leadership in the household. So, I want to make sure that I have that for my children. They're all 7 and under. I have my oldest is a boy.
Yeah.
So it's like I know that they look at my every move, right? So they see if I'm texting while driving. They see if you know what I mean. Like they look at everything and they tell me like
Yeah.
you shouldn't be texting while driving. I'm like, what are you talking about? I wasn't doing that.
Right.
You know, but they see
So
everything.
sometimes
So
I drop the S bomb every once in a while. My kids be like, "Don't cuss."
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, so right now, yeah, that's my biggest why. I know that in order for me to be the most impactful leader in my household, the most impactful husband, the most impactful father, there's no place for that.
Yeah.
The most impactful servant for God, there's no place for that. There's really no place for that at all in my life, and that's what really just kind of it keeps me going. It keeps me. Do the thoughts come up like now and then? Sure. Do they quickly get brushed aside? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's it's the constant journey now where it's like that's my past. It molded me into some of my characteristics and my strengths, but it doesn't define me anymore.
Right. That's powerful. I think one of the best exercise I've done, and I have it on my whiteboard up here, but it's just my why, getting in touch with it. Um, why I'm walking this life out, why it's important to me, who's important to me. Um, and then of course having some core values. I'm the kind of man that's committed. I'm the
Hmm.
kind of man that, builds a great business. I'm the kind of man that, loves and nurtures and affirms my children, and just having this focus and this core values and, a creed almost to live by is, where I find the strength, because days come, right? Where,
Hmm.
especially as an entrepreneur, where it gets discouraging, like you need this payment to come in, you need to close this person, right? uh,
Uh-huh.
um and those times get frustrating, and you're just like almost waiting in limbo, where it could be 48 hours where you're just kind of like, "Ooh, man, hope this works out." And so during those times, just look at the why and just hold on to it. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean, brother?
Oh
uh,
yeah. That that happens sometimes far too often than not,
Yeah.
especially in the the beginning phases entrepreneur journey where again we're still still figuring some things out sometimes, and really it's a big test of your faith if this is actually it's and what God's calling you for. It sometimes He makes the steps easy, but
Yeah.
there's no denying that there's challenges involved, and
Right.
there's some things that's not so easy involved with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Hmm.
having those, yeah, like you brought some really good, core value, core beliefs. And one of my thing between both me and my wife together when we started our marriage was, and I don't have the exact scriptures in Matthew where it talks about the wise man who built his house on a rock.
Oh yeah. Powerful.
And yeah, the winds come and the rains come and everything come to try to knock it down, but it's built on that steady foundation. Um, so again, it's one of those things where it's all encompassing is to make sure that we have that foundation in our faith. So like when things starts happening, literally at 4:30 in the morning, I'm in my prayer closet, which is my office. It's actually right here, just with the computer on, and I'm deep into prayer and just being grateful, being giving thanks for the opportunity to have our own business, to have 3 kids, to have a wonderful wife, and
Yeah.
um, that really just kind of sets the tone and really just keeps me again focused on my why, keeps me focused on the mission, and able to block out the noise that can come from you know things that need to happen that really ultimately only God's in control of.
Yeah. Mm. I have a question. It's kind of lingering on my mind. It's like, how hard was it to transition from, being raised or probably accepting, being a Muslim and then transitioning? Was it a lot of struggle to let go of certain things or?
Um, Not really, not necessarily for me.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't. It's it was different. Like my biggest concern was like, oh, what's my family gonna think and things like that.
Right.
And that's obviously a lot of people's concern too as well. Um,
They probably
but
thought you fell off the wagon.
yeah, yeah, right. But the biggest thing is that when like what I experienced wasn't it didn't involve the five senses. It didn't involve something that you can like,
So it wasn't
touch,
like a
taste, see,
mind
and
intellect thing,
it
right?
was, yeah,
Yeah,
it was
that's
purely
powerful.
like yeah, it was purely supernatural. And then when that change happened, it was like there was no like, oh, I'm giving up, my entire belief system and this and that. It's like it's not where it's like, oh, I love my car, but I'm gonna sell it to go buy a new car or something like that. But I'm so comfortable in my seat, things like that. It's and that's probably a really bad analogy, but
No, I totally
um
get it. Like,
yeah,
it
right. So
wasn't
it's
this
it
intellectual mind, you weren't accepting up here, you're accepting it right here, so,
exactly, yeah, it's a hard thing, really.
yeah.
So that's really what it was. It wasn't There was some difficulties as far as like telling family and stuff like that because again, certain people in my family, they helped raise me, helped to be there for me, and again, that's part of their foundation of their faith. And but I think things change, not just in me but in them too as well.
Yeah.
And being more open to like receiving the gospel and seeing the change it had in my life, right? Because I mean, I hid my alcohol and drugs very well, but it was still obvious. It wasn't like no one knew. Like, oh, that's a surprise. I would
Right.
tell there was something going on with this kid. But there's a big transformation that's happened that makes it um, people being more supportive rather than
That's awesome.
judgmental and non-receiving.
Probably probably seen that it was working.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you is, what would you give, advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out on this journey? We do this podcast, with a recovery mindset, but we're open to, business because we're totally holistic. But there's people starting out on this journey of faith, and they just need a little help and a little encouragement. So, if you can, for a moment, talk to that person. They're just starting out on this journey, got a couple days clean, a couple weeks clean, months, whatever. What would you say to them?
Yeah, right now you're starting off, and the biggest thing is to immerse yourself, surround yourself with people who are gonna uplift you, gonna affirm you, gonna keep you motivated, gonna keep you focused on what your goals are, what your results are. You know, put away anything of the old, right? And really think about the scripture I mentioned. Like read Matthew entirety so you can get the scripture of what I was talking about with, you know, having being like the wise man who build your house on a strong foundation. Right now it's important. Like you're laying the foundation for what's going to be typically the rest of your life. Your road to recovery, your new relationships, rebuilding relationships. Rebuild it on that strong foundation. And when things happen, when challenges happen, if something that would normally trigger you into going back into old habits, when those things starts coming, when the when the devil tries to attack you, your foundation is going to be so strong. You're going to be so immersed with support and with the not just the heart knowledge, but also the head knowledge to be able to recognize it. And it'll really give you the opportunity just to be able to continue looking forward, continue standing strong, and just continue your recovery journey.
That's awesome, brother. Can you tell people where to contact you one last time?
Yeah, you can again reach me on Facebook. It's at Coach Arfan. Um, my website is arfanhussein.com. That's probably the easiest versus my Bitly, but it's just arfanhussein.com. That's ARFANHUSAIN.com. And like, feel free to shoot me an email or message me on Facebook. I'll be happy to, just to talk more about my journey with you, pray with you, or even if you're an entrepreneur needing help with lead gen, I'll be happy to help you off with your Facebook ads journey too as well.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Tim.